Welcome to the Big Screen Bowls podcast, a podcast where Caleb Kindle and Christian McCrite give their reviews and reactions to what's happening on the big screen. They talk about films, TV series, and other forms of media entertainment. Episodes are released every Monday. Be sure to subscribe on your favorite podcast listening platform. Be sure to follow the show's Instagram page at Big Screen Bowls Podcast, where new hints and updates will be released about future episodes.
Hey guys, welcome back to the Big Screen Bowls Podcast, where you have my Chief Financial Officer, Christian McCrite, here.
Good morning and happy Halloween.
Happy Halloween. That's the truth. If you're watching this before or after Halloween, just watch a Halloween movie and think you're back on October 31st and call it good.
That's right.
So yeah, just like Christian said, we're going to be talking about the spooky season here.
Spooky.
With giving you our 5
Spoopy
horror movies that we've seen.
Yeah, our top 5 horror movie films of all time, individually, not collectively.
Yeah, and
so
give you a heads up on how the ranking system works here. It's, again, me personally, I'm not a giant horror movie buff compared to some of the other content we've went into, so it's going to be kind of more of a fun one.
Yeah, just a light, casual, it's Halloween.
Relax, unzip the pants a little bit, have my stomach out like it's going to be Thanksgiving.
That's funny. Have some pumpkin pie, all sorts of good stuff. All right, so we're just gonna do our top 5, and we'll go from 5 to 1. And why don't you just start us off, Kindle?
Yeah. So first thing, again, housekeeping items here. Almost all horror movies are going to be rated R. So I would say probably,
yes,
I think all of mine maybe are going to be in the rated R section. So kids beware. But starting off at number 5 is going to be kind of a classic. We're going Pet Sematary.
The original or the new one?
I would say the newest one, but original as well too. And again, with a lot of my rankings and stuff like that, they're going to be more of like general movie types compared to just like individual movies and stuff like that.
It is a pretty freaky movie.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. It's like it's that whole I just like the whole entire concept of it too. Like buried into the ground, brought back up again. And even the new one, it shows it off pretty well as well too. It's like there's just like this urge just like to see if it's real or not. Like,
right.
There's no way it's real.
There's some mysticism behind all of it.
The ground's no good. It went bad years ago. Was that off South Park or whatever?
they
allude to it. It's like,
yeah. There's like kids who like walk around with like the animal masks, and stuff like that. Very creepy.
Oh yeah, very creepy, and just like that whole idea. A good spoiler warning here to watch it. It's a little bit scary, but it's unique. Bury the cat. The cat is kind of demonic. It gets the girl to accidentally commit suicide. They try to bring their daughter back. She's a completely different person. Takes out the family. They all start burying each other in the. Well, I'm not going to give it my best though. Is like a lot of horror movies in general are just very unrealistic. So that's why we've seen a really big push probably in our culture, especially when me and you were growing up, so we're in our 20s, of where it's more demonic,
right,
compared to like being real or being a mortal being,
right,
in that sense, just because of like that. There's no real like rules of demons and stuff like that, and how much power they have and what they don't have, compared to just like mortals and individuals and stuff. So
right.
I would say that's probably my biggest pullback of all of this. It's like the little girl's able to like do some crazy stuff with like one like a little scalpel.
Yeah, she goes off on a rampage, and so at first the father is kind of like okay with it.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, just to preface this, we don't know each other's lists.
Oh yeah.
I'm just saying this based on what I know. Like the girl goes on a rampage. The father like he was the one that buried her because like he's like, oh, I don't know if this is true, like, but maybe it is, like maybe I could have my daughter back, and that sends off a whole chain of events. And so it's very unsettling. The ending is what really gets me.
Yeah, it's a very bad ending for, like, not like a bad ending as in it's bad, but it's a bad ending of, like, you don't get very much peace behind it.
Tell them what it is.
So ending,
Spoiler alert.
yes.
Spoiler alert for all of these, by the way.
Ending of it, again, the little girl, they figured out that she's kind of demonic, and she goes and she's able to kill her father and mother, and is able to bury dad first. Is it dad first, I think?
I think so, yes.
Yeah, buries dad, and he comes back just like that.
Yeah.
Just like her. Takes mom out, buries her out there, and then they go for a little brother that was locked into the car.
Yeah. Because they originally locked him in the car to keep him safe, and they're getting ready to go take care of it. They're going to go take care of the situation, come back and leave. But all you see is like from the perspective of this kid, like the camera zooms into kind of the car and kind of like behind the kid. And as he turns around, as the camera looks around, it goes like to the front windshield, and you don't see their faces. You just see like the torso down of all the family members standing there, and like one of them coming up to the car, and that's the end. It's like, it's incredibly unsettling.
Oh yeah, and I guess that's probably what draws me to it. But no, that's interesting concept, interesting idea. Some of it's unrealistic, but that's number 5 for me.
All right, my number 5. Also to preface this as well, 4 out of my 5 movies are like past 2010. Like, so like
Nice.
all these recent ones I really enjoy. My number 5 is The Witch, which is directed by Robert Eggers, one of my favorite directors of all time. Came out in 2015. This movie I actually watched, not in theaters. I didn't watch it in theaters. My sister, she rented it on Redbox. She rented it on a Redbox a long time ago.
Just a case for urban viewers, I don't know if they know what Redbox really is.
Oh, right, yeah.
So we were a lot later to getting internet in our kind of area, at least, or like really good, reliable internet for streaming and stuff like that. So when movie stores first went down, what replaced them was something called Redbox. And Redbox basically was this, and they're still out there, but it's just like almost a kiosk, a vending machine for movies.
Yeah.
And you can pick what movie you want on there, shoots the movie out, you swipe your card, whatever else it is, and then it just charges you a bunch of extra if you don't bring it back.
Truth be told, I still use it every once in a great while. If there's something I missed in theaters that I don't want to wait for it to come out on a streaming service, or I don't want to pay for it on a streaming service, then I'll go use the Redbox. Anyway, so my sister got it, and I watched it on my own with a couple of my friends.
Do you remember who those friends were?
I don't believe I watched it with you the first time.
Okay, I remember we watched it together.
We did, but not the first time. The first time I watched it with our friend Jefferson. And this
Shout out to
movie,
you, Jefferson, if you do.
Oh,
listen.
yeah.
I don't know if he does or not though.
Yeah. This movie is it's about like a Puritan family who essentially gets like exiled from the rest of the community, so they have to go live in an isolated place, like near the edge of a very deep, dense forest. And bad things start happening to the family. Things are cascading, just horrible events. They own this goat named Black Phillip.
Yeah,
and it's
big
like,
old black belly goat.
Yeah, and so it's kind of like this like symbolic thing for like the devil. And so they heard rumors. They keep hearing stories. They keep hearing weird noises about bad things happening in the woods. And all of a sudden, on this day, the main character is played by Anya Taylor-Joy, and she is like the daughter of the family. She is looking over her youngest sibling, and she's playing peekaboo. And all of a sudden, on the last one, the baby's gone. And this whole story cascades into like finding out what's happening. And each family member is basically, it's a very complicated movie. They are all a product of their own sin, and they have their like individual like deadly sin extracted out of them. The father being very prideful, the mother being very envious, and the younger brother being lustful, so on and so forth. And so, but it seems to this part that the daughter's the only one that's kind of unaffected directly.
Yeah.
And then they have like two twins who hang around the goat all the time. And then, so this witch, there actually is a witch. And so it comes back and it haunts them all, starts picking them off one by one. It's unsettling. It's a very like dark movie, not just in tone, but directorially, like the tone and the colors are dark and dense, and it is extremely, it creeps me out. It creeps me out. But the only reason why it's number 5 and not higher is because it is a slow burn. It's not, it's not the longest movie, but the nature of it is like, there's not a whole lot of dialogue. It's a lot of wide shots, or it's a lot of like nature shots, or shots like, without any noises or anything like that. So like it'll either be dead quiet or it'll switch over to like really loud, eerie, like violins and fiddles and noises and things that are just very unsettling. And then in the end, the daughter, after everyone else in her family has died, she becomes a witch. And it ends with like, she goes into the woods after the goat, Black Phillip, turns into the devil and says, hey, like, have you ever wanted like paradise? Like, have you ever wanted like the good things in life? And he's like, I'm the gateway to that. And she like undresses, she goes out in the woods, and there's a bunch of other women out there who are completely naked. And they all start like chanting around this fire, and they all start floating in the air. And then she starts floating in the air, and she's like happy. And then the movie just ends. It's very unsettling. So anyways, that's my number 5. To definitely go check this one out.
Oh yeah. That is a good one too. And I still remember, like, it was one of the most weirdest things. Dad's getting mad on something, and the old Black Phillip comes out of nowhere with his horn and stab.
He rams into him.
Yeah. And
So.
I don't know. I messed with goats a lot, at least. And like, I'm still to this day, I'm like, okay, there's no way they could just pierce you like that. And
Yeah.
but either way, really good movie. That was a really
It
good
is.
choice. My number 4 is going to be something that affects me since we're in such a rural setting. I've always been a big outdoor naturist. And being outdoors in nature, a lot of times you get caught outside when it was dark. And you hear little creaks, whatever it is in the woods.
Just the small noises, yeah.
And nothing would terrify me more than thinking of Wrong Turn.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if you've watched Wrong Turn or not, but basically the whole premise of it is it's a bunch of like super strong inbred hillbillies that are living out in the woods, and the area that they live in is very radioactive as well too. So it was used for like sites to test nuclear weaponry and all that. So there's no wildlife out there. All wildlife's dead. There's trees and stuff like that. It's all that's able to live in it. So the only way that this family was able to live throughout all these years was to cannibalize people that traveled through. So that's what it is. And it's a lot of the time a group of teenagers, whatever else, gets stuck out there, and they have to be chased down by these crazy looking inbred rednecks.
Yeah.
And will eat them as well too. So it's like, I guess there's not really a whole lot of crazy big like plot, scenery or anything like that. It's pretty basic for the most part. It's a pretty simple idea where you're the prey for once in your life and are being tracked down by a monster or whatever that's a lot smarter than you are.
Yeah. I've personally, I've not seen this movie.
Yeah.
But it sounds to you like just like the concept of this movie, just like being lost in the woods out at night, not knowing where you are and being hunted down instead of being the hunter, is a very unsettling concept.
100% it is. And again, I'm gonna go ahead and mark the basis of the movie because there's like 5 of them, I think. Again, I'm gonna say more of like the first 1 or 2 are gonna be the best, because when I got later into it, it's when more low budget started picking it up.
Right. Yeah.
A lot worse than what it was there. But yeah, one of the first 1 or first 2 were really unsettling concept. Very weird as well too, with the incest aspect being added to it as well too. It's honestly, you feel like this it would scare more city people than it would country folk, but
Probably.
same way though. It's even a little aspect in our way too. Why I'm never going to the Appalachians.
Yeah, well, that's a very interesting number 4. My number 4 is A Quiet Place by John Krasinski.
Yeah,
Love this movie.
I love the dialogue.
Yes, it's not incredibly scary. It has a lot of jump scares that really work for me. It's the whole thought of being in a world where, like, if you make a single sound that's unwarranted, like that could be just like it.
Yeah.
You're done. And so it's super interesting to see, like, this family. It revolves around this family with John Krasinski, Emily Blunt, and they're raising this family in this environment where everyone has to be quiet. And early on, like, they're traumatized because they go to, like, a small store and their kid picks up a toy, and not too far out, they get to this bridge. And the kid figures out that the toy makes noises. So, being a kid, doesn't know any better. He turns it on, like this, like, rocket ship type of toy, and it makes a whole lot of, like, laser sounds and sounds. And all of a sudden, they look back, and it's too late. Like, immediately, out of nowhere, this alien creature comes out and whoosh, done. So then the movie kind of picks up from that point. The rest of the family, the mother and the father and the son and the daughter, and the daughter cannot hear very well, and everyone has to kind of, like, speak in, like, sign language in order to be able to communicate better. And they have, like, a new baby on the way, and so part of the scary part of this movie is they're living in this environment. It's a very short movie, but it's really good, very effective. The jump scares super good. The soundtrack amazing. John Krasinski does a wonderful job, not only being in this movie as the father, but also directing it. And so they're trying to dodge all these aliens that are completely based on sound, on hunting things based on sound. And so it revolves around really the mother and the daughter, their kind of relationship, and being able to outsmart these things. And she has to, at the worst possible time, when their farm area essentially is surrounded by, like, a few of these creatures, she is in labor and she has to give birth. And that's extremely, like, I mean, obviously, we are men. We don't have to go through said thing, but childbirth, is apparently done with, like, a lot of screaming, a lot of pain. And so people, like, so the thought of having to go through childbirth, and which causes so much distress and pain and screaming in the middle of an environment where you're not supposed to make any noises at all, you're not even supposed to talk, is in itself, like, it's less of a straight horror movie and more of, like, a thriller with, like, horror aspects.
Yep.
But I still put it in here. And but anyways, that's my number 4. It's really effective, it's simple, and it delivers on what it promises. But it's not anything like from, like, a story standpoint or anything like that. It's not super complicated and it's not spectacular. It's effective on what it's trying to do. That's all it is.
That's a good one. That is a good one. I know it was a really good film just in general too, even if you don't categorize it as a horror film. But getting to the next steps here, my number 3 is something that actually scared the bejesus out of me in high school when I first watched it. I think we watched it at one of our houses or something like that. That would be Sinister.
Okay. Yeah.
The idea of, and again, the whole idea of it is a father that gets into films and stuff like that, works as a film kind of critique maker, films and all of that. He buys this brand new house and buys it for a lot cheaper than what it was beforehand, just so he could have enough money to keep doing his passion of writing and artistry. He does this, and he goes up into his attic one day and finds a bunch of old films. He's like, oh, okay, so this looks like the family were just filming themselves, having fun, whatever else. And that's what it is. It's a family that are just having a lot of fun, all of this stuff. And then it cuts to a scene where they're all dead. Or something's happening to all of them. And his father's trying to get to the bottom of all this. And we learn that there's a demonic presence with all this films with a very, very powerful demon called Baku or something like that and was known to take children and possess the minds of children. And he starts to notice that this character is in all these pictures as well too, even though it's very well hidden. So they have to see if they can try to solve this, try to stop it from happening. And again, just like with most of all of these I've said so far, it has a very sinister end to it.
No pun intended.
Within its name there, where his family gets caught in the same exact situation, even though they fought as hard as they could to stop it.
Yeah.
Again, this really makes you think. It's kind of neat. Like, I think it does it really well, where it's like you don't understand like the severity of it until like a preacher or a theologist or whatever else has to talk about it.
Right. It's a wild movie. I haven't seen it in a while, but it's a very wild movie, and it does things in such a different fashion, like using like old photography and like images, rather than like just some shadow on the wall. It's very unique.
And he's watching this over and over and countless times to get more of an idea of it, and he learns that watching it more and more
is making it worse.
It's making all of it worse. And that the creature, that Baku, whatever else, is living in these documents. So when he transfers it over to his computer to a digital copy, it's starting to like move on his computer screen, and looks outside in the window, and it's out there in the bushes, and
very freaky.
Very freaky, yeah. And that's one of the first to talk about. It's that whole new idea of monster or demonic creatures that don't have mortality at all. So there's not a whole lot of rules for them. So you can make them as overpowered or whatever you want to as you want.
Right. That's a good number 3. My number 3, which has been, it may never move out of my top 5. It may never move out of my top 5 horror films unless something really spectacular comes out. Because what I have right now is pretty solidified up to this point. But the original Alien movie. A lot of people like Aliens 2 more. I like the original. I always prefer the original. Directed by Ridley Scott. Amazing director. This movie is just creepy. It opens with, like, in space, no one can hear you scream. Like, it already sets the tone early on. It's a classic. Came out in 1979. The effects of this movie back in that time were amazing. Like, so many practical effects. It was mind-blowing. And when I first watched this, I was like, this would actually be terrifying, because you were out in space and there's nothing outside. There's just nothing. Like, it's just you and these few people. They have like this android, and he ends up being like kind of like the main antagonist besides the actual monster itself. The kills are gory and unsettling and sneaky, and you never know where this thing is at, what it's after. And it spawned the start to a huge franchise.
Oh my gosh, a giant franchise.
Yeah. It was like the Alien movies, and then of course there were the Predator movies, and they came together and made movies. They made stuff. And I'm not a huge fan of all that. But I always go back to the original Alien movie, where like Alien 2 had it was a little bit more action packed, more action oriented. This one really doubled down on, like, this is scary. Like they don't know anything about it. Not at all. It's completely new. No one has really any information about it. And the fact that the face huggers and stuff, like, I can't, like, it makes me shiver just thinking about like the face hugger stuff, where they'll like latch onto your face and like stick like a probe down your throat and plant an egg inside of you. It's just, that's nasty. And it just makes me, I can't.
Yeah. Well, I hate to show my cards here, but Number 2 for me is Alien. Alien
All
2,
right.
probably more specific. But,
Oh, okay.
and so I'm going to have to comment on all this
That's-
too
sure.
while we're on this whole idea. But yeah, the life, or like I don't know how like Demented or whoever that had to like create the xenomorph had to be. Like, these are very complicated creatures that do not exist, but for a long time they have to exist because they're so unique and so quirky that like you had to see one or do something like that to make you think they're real.
There's just like something that reminds you of this, like something to bring inspiration.
Yeah, there has to be some. I don't know what it would have to be, but there's something that has to bring inspiration in all this. But, and for the people who don't know Alien, you have a creature, monster, whatever you like to call it, that is born out of an egg. The creature that comes out of the egg is not the actual monster. No. It's what you say, a face hugger. And what the space hugger is, it's basically this little crab-looking thing that has a tail on it.
A spider crab thing.
That's able to jump around whatever they need to, and they need human hosts to live and reproduce.
Yeah, they need some sort of humanoid host, and they have acid blood, so you can't pry it off, otherwise you die, and you can't cut it off, otherwise you die.
Yeah, and they're very quick, just very creepy creatures. Run around and chase after you. But yeah, they latch onto your face. When they latch onto your face,
it's game over.
They put you to sleep, basically, kind of in a way. And when you wake up, they actually lay an egg inside of the egg into your stomach, and it's a parasite that feeds off of you until it gets big enough to bust out of you.
Yeah.
And then it grows to become as an alien.
Yes. It's a terrifying concept.
Yeah. With all that being said, if you've never seen this, it's like, that's a very complicated structure for a creature. And then you have a overpowered creature that has a spear for a tail.
Yep.
Has 2 mouths. Has a little mouth that can come out and is able to like punch through your skull and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And it will take you out.
It's large, but it's quiet.
Quiet, very stealthy, very sneaky, very quick, very smart.
It's extremely intelligent. It learns, it adapts as it goes along. Oh man, that's just for me. And it also has acid blood. There's different forms of xenomorphs, but we follow Sigourney Weaver's character, Ripley,
Ripley.
through these first 2 movies, and she's great. I mean, she's one of my favorite protagonists of all time.
It's like the first female lead ever too, so it's like it's absolutely like empowering for
in a good way.
Yeah, for women at the time and stuff like that. And it's not that she's even like the biggest, strongest person there. It's just that she's
no
smart and is able to figure ways out of these situations.
Yes, she's incredibly smart and such a good character to follow. And she goes through so much development within these, like the first 2 movies. The first movie is almost like her background, like her setup to what she does in the second movie. But yeah, I mean, it's just fantastic.
Yeah, it's a super interesting concept. And I think that's why it ranks so high in my mind of things. Is it as scary as some of these other ones out there because it's not as real? No, it really isn't. But it's too interesting of a concept, and this is probably one of the most famous horror movie franchises in history. Like you said, with it spawning off to make Predators, and then Alien vs. Predators, and more of an action type sequence compared to a
right. So I'm gonna get into my number 2, and I'm not gonna talk a whole lot long about this, but The Conjuring. The Conjuring, still to this day, is cool. Difficult for me to watch. It is. I mean, it follows like the Perron family, and then it's got Ed and Lorraine Warren, who are basically demonologists of some sorts, and it's based on a real story. This movie is one of the very few. This is actually one of so the Alien movie creeps me out, and it has like some like nasty, unsettling like creature stuff. But this movie is the only movie on this list that lingers on in my brain and torments me that way. Because me as a Christian man, like this is very hard to watch. Like, especially like kind of like the same with The Witch. Like, witches and demons and stuff like that, can be very difficult to watch, especially when for us that sort of stuff is very real.
Yeah, that's the bad guy side of things too. It's like we're in our mind we're kind of following the good guy and Christ and all that compared to this is the evil side of it, and in most of these movies the evil side has the upper hand all the time.
Right. And so this whole movie, I'm not going to go into too much about it because you just need to watch it.
Oh,
it's about this family that just moves into this old house that apparently used to be occupied by a woman named Bathsheba who killed her own kid and hung herself and basically gave herself up to the devil. And she comes back and she haunts these people. The set pieces are super scary. They're creepy. It's dark. The things that these kids go through that were based on a true story is just terrifying. And I've seen the interviews of the real life people who've talked about how the movie is fairly accurate to what it actually happened in real life, except for in real life it was worse. And it was just that the realism behind that definitely scares me, but also just the cinematography, the creepy music, the
Annabelle,
just all of it. It's just it lingers on. It's the movie that whenever you turn it off, you never really turn it off. Like it's always there. But anyways, that's my number 2. Didn't want to go into too much about it. It's I put it on this list because it's that good. Yeah. So it's a very powerful movie. Anyways, what's your number 1?
Number 1, gonna have to give it to the one that scares me the most throughout the night. Morbius.
I thought you were being serious.
You're gonna get a lot more of these for the future, just to give everybody a heads up. But I wake up
Bionicle 3.
I wake up in sweats in the middle of the night.
It's Morbin time. Anyways,
okay, real number 1 is going to have to be one of the scariest creatures I've ever seen until you pointed a true fact or a fact about it. Insidious.
Oh, that's a good movie. Yeah.
Where you kind of have this idea of this kid is a dream walker. He's able to leave his own body and go into the spirit realm, and then kind of a dark creature captures
Darth Maul.
Darth Maul, yeah.
That was my coping mechanism for that movie. Is exactly. He looks like Darth Maul, so I can.
It made it that much less scary, but I still just remember the emotions that before thinking he was Darth Maul. Like,
we had to force ourselves to think it was Darth Maul to make it less scary.
Yeah, exactly. And then even then, like you have that the witch character as well too. That was in it as well too. That was the father's vice of like.
The old lady.
Okay. Yeah. And yeah, just to give everybody a heads up idea of it. They're dream walkers. They're a family of dream walkers. The idea is when they go to sleep at night, instead of dreaming, they actually wake up out of their own bodies and go to the spirit realm.
And they're able to see like dead people.
Yeah. Basically.
Some good, some bad.
The kid basically has this deal come up where he gets too far out into the dream world and gets captured by dark creatures within the dream world. They come back to the father, and the father actually had a lot of the same issues and was almost in the same exact situation as his son until one of the main characters, kind of an older lady, comes to meet him and actually wipes his memory of all of it ever happening so it can never affect him.
Right.
But yeah, no, some of the scariest scenes or whatever just come on my mind. It's like they're trying to find their son and stuff like that, and then this Darth Maul type creature.
Yeah, is clawing around, and it's creepy. I remember the scene I remember most from that movie is when the older lady who is trying to help them out, who she kind of sees the clairvoyant or whatever, she actually goes into the kid's room and she looks up at the ceiling where it's like really dark, like behind like the fan, and she's like, it's in the corner, and she's like describing it, and like as somebody else is like writing it down.
Yeah.
And it's just that it's there but you can't see it. Yeah. Is very creepy.
Yeah, it's like I don't think it's that same scene, but like it's like grandma sees it or something like that, and it's just sitting there, and it's like hair, like it's got a receding hairline.
Yeah, it sees it
Sort of-
behind.
which isn't scary in itself, but it's like it's really tall. It's got really long fingers, and it's like, what are you here for? And he points to the body.
Yeah.
The little kid laying in the bed puts hand down, and you go into its lair. And it's listening to.
Tiptoe through the tulips, and it's that. Oh my gosh, it's unsettling.
Oh, yeah.
That's creepy.
But yeah, if you haven't seen that movie, that's possibly one of the greatest. That's on my mind one of the greatest scary movies of all time. Just like Christian said, going into The Conjuring and stuff like that, it's something so settling because that's the bad side for our religion and stuff like that. And yeah, give it a watch. Honestly, all of the series are really good too. Because even like the second one that goes in,
yeah, they're all good. All three, four of them. There's four of them. There's four of them. The first three are pretty good. The fourth one, but the first two are very good. But I'm gonna go into my number one. I'm not going to talk about it a lot for a specific reason because it's very recent and I need you all to go see it. And this is not your typical horror movie. It is psychological horror of some sort, psychological horror / thriller. It is called The Lighthouse, also directed by Robert Eggers, who did The Witch. Came out in 2019, stars Willem Dafoe and Robert Pattinson. If anybody says that Robert Pattinson can't act, they're wrong. They're just wrong. Twilight did not do him any favors, but in this movie specifically, which is definitely like my dark horse, in this movie specifically, and like the new Batman, Robert Pattinson really shows off his acting chops. But especially in this movie, it follows two sailors who have to work at this secluded lighthouse, and there can only be two of them. Horrible living conditions. They have to be there for a while. You can't tell what's real and what's not. They have these weird experiences. It has a lot of like symbolism from Norse mythology and Greek mythology, and it's all black and white. This movie is entirely black and white, and the sound that they use in this movie is incredible and immersive, and even the language they use is like the old language of like the old sailors from hundreds of years past. And it is some of the best acting I've seen from either of these two actors. I'm not going to go a whole lot into it, but essentially like the plot of it is like they have to wait until they have to hold this lighthouse. They have to wait until a ship comes and takes them home. But a bad storm is coming in, and Willem Dafoe is like the chief character, and he has his hold over the lighthouse. He's the watcher of the lighthouse, and the lighthouse serves as like a metaphor for like some sort of mystical power, some sort of like there's like a mysticism behind it that Robert Pattinson wants to find out, and Robert Pattinson's struggling. He has visions of mermaids. He's dealing with being alone and being lustful and all this. There's so many weird, disturbing, frightening, and hilarious scenes all thrown into one movie. That's all I'm gonna say about it. But this movie is, in my opinion, a masterpiece. And I encourage you all to please go watch it. I know from what I'm saying, it sounds complicated, it sounds strange, but trust me, when you watch it, you will understand that the experience of seeing this movie is unlike anything I've ever been in. So anyways, that's my number one.
That's awesome. I haven't seen that one too, so I'm glad you said that. I might have an idea what I want to be doing later this week. But everyone, again, thanks for jumping on. Thanks for letting us have this kind of fun podcast of going through the spooky season and rating some of the best spooky movies in our opinion. So
thank you so much for joining it for our Halloween special.
Yeah. To be a ghost bowl, what do we need to do, Christian?
Go ahead and follow our Instagram at Big Screen Bowls Podcast. Become a part of the hashtag Bowl Nation. So follow that Instagram page for future hints and updates. And follow us on Spotify and Amazon Music, and pretty soon Apple Music.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So yeah, again, thanks for everyone for jumping on, and have a bold day.